People who knew celebrities before they made it big. Who was it, and what were they like? I have friends who knew Pedro Pascal when he was a struggling actor in New York City. He used to come into the coffee shop my friends worked at and chat with them about auditions and plays he was in. He even comped them tickets to a few of his performances. For a while, he used to comment on their Instagram photos of their kids and wish them happy birthday and whatnot. He still might, but I'm not on Instagram anymore to see it. Obviously, they thought he was a great guy, and for him to stay in touch with a couple of baristas years after he knew them seems to prove he is. My coworker's dad owned an apartment building in NYC when Pedro was a tenant. They said he was a really nice guy. Everything I've ever read about this dude makes him seem awesome. Just a normal kid from South America who broke big and deserves all of his good fortune. Chris Hemsworth. His manager was my buddy and I used to get him into clubs and take him around LA introducing him to people. I've run into him a few times since he blew up, and he always gives me a bear hug and tells whoever he's with, "She babysat me when I moved to LA. I love him, the sweetest guy." Adam Sandler and I were in the same dorm at NYU. He was really irritating to me, but I was a real a-hole back then, so I don't trust my opinion of him. Most self-aware comment of the day: I appreciate it. I grew up with Matthew Lillard. He was always the class clown. He was born to play Shaggy. He's an active user on Reddit. He pops up from time to time when you mention him. Always seems cool. In my first job in Seattle, I knew Brendan Fraser a bit before his fame. He was very friendly and humble and sweet. He was also gorgeous, much more in person than on film. My mom also worked with Brendan Fraser when he modeled in Seattle. My mom said he was really kind and happy guy to be around. Natasha Lyonne and my girlfriend became friendly in the late 90s. We hung out in the East Village a bit. She's exactly the same, a salty old New York cabbie trapped in the body of a downtown cool kid. Funny as hell. John Bernthal. When we were kids, he was best friends with one of my cousins. I used to be at that house all the time, and eventually my aunt and uncle took me in. John was typical boy, super wild but a nice kid. Used to absolutely wreck my pillow forts, fart on the pillows and laugh like a maniac. LOL. He was always really smart though, and a good person. I bumped into him years ago when we were in our 30s and congratulated him on his success. He remembered me and said, "Sorry I wrecked your forts." He deserves all the happiness in the world. My parents both knew Ryan Gosling when he was going to the high school they worked at. They always talk about how nice and polite he was. My mom worked with special needs kids and she still talks about how Ryan, who was already a bit of a celeb, would always take time to talk to them and sit and chat and was just great with them. The drama teacher at the school at that time is my dad's friend, and he always claims he taught Ryan everything he knows. He was on a late-night talk show and started talking about growing up poor in a trailer park. The entire audience laughed. He paused and looked at them all and said deadpan, "That really isn't funny." I died laughing at his comment. When I was a kid, one of my neighbors who's in the film industry had him over and my mom mistook him for a PA or something. She asked that if he was waiting for the neighbor for a while if he could watch me for like an hour, and he told her it wasn't a problem at all. When my mom came back, the neighbor introduced them to one another, and she tried apologizing, thanking him. But he basically said it was his pleasure, and there was nothing to apologize for. This was shortly after The Notebook came out, so he wasn't as big as he is today, but still big enough where someone might feel like, I have better things to do than watch a random person's kid. My sister's ex-boyfriend went to Christian camp with the Jonas Brothers. This was around the time they were just starting to hit it big. He said they were jerks. Nick was at Children's Hospital a few years ago and was an absolute dick. He thought he was too cool for the patients and nurses there. Seemed like he was forced by his PR team to visit. Why even go if you're going to be an a-hole? As an ex-Jonas Brothers fan, I absolutely believe this, to be honest. I knew a couple. Ben Affleck was my little brother's best friend, and I used to babysit him and Casey when they were really little. They were nice kids. Paul Reiser is my cousin, and he was an a-hole before fame and a bigger a-hole after. I always thought Reiser killed it playing Burke in Aliens. Guess it wasn't a big stretch. Nope, he was just playing himself. My brother grew up with all the Impractical Jokers, and Sal Vulcano was one of his best friends who gave a eulogy at his funeral. Sal is the exact dude you see on the show. He used to dress up as a turkey and visit my family every Thanksgiving. We called him the Turkey Man. After my brother passed, he stayed in touch with us, even once bought me and my mom tickets to come see one of their traveling shows and got real emotional seeing my mom. He also wore a shirt for my brother in the movie. All around just a good dude. Still talk to him every now and again. He doesn't always get back to me right away, but he always eventually does and is always super concerned about how my family is doing. Used to work with Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots before they took off. Nice funny dude that was way too modest about his talent. He begged us to go to their first show, and after one song we all kinda looked at each other like, well, he's gonna be famous. Ben Stiller filmed a movie on the campus of the university where I worked. He seemed a nice guy, very serious. Since I'm old, 73, I was far less impressed by him than by his parents, who visited the set one day. I had been a Stiller and Mira fan since I was a kid, and said to me, "I'm Catholic and Jerry's Jewish, and that, pointing to Ben, is our guilt." Tony Hawk was just a regular skater kid like everyone else. He did have the only full-size half-pipe in town, which made him a big local celebrity, but other than that he was just one of us. Laid back and nice to everyone. I was on the pilot, and much of the first season of Malcolm in the Middle. I got to hang out with much of the cast on set. It was just like hanging out with any other middle school kids. I showed Frankie how to burn things with a magnifying glass. Everyone was chill. Hey, speaking of Malcolm in the Middle, I lived in New York City for exactly 1 year starting in 1985. Jane Kaczmarek, who played the mom, lived a few floors up from us in our building. My mom and she met in the laundry room and became friends. I remember having dinner with Janie a few times. She was, at that time, a struggling actress. She was so unbelievably awesome, and I am so glad she made it. Nancy Cartwright, aka Bart Simpson. She lived 2 doors down and babysat my brother and I. Always very funny and kind. She had many roles prior to Bart, but when she got that, she moved to a nicer house. My brother and I helped her move. A while ago, she followed my art page on Instagram. I was so stoked I told my family and everything. Checked back like a couple days later, and she was no longer following me. I wonder if it was an accident. I didn't even get a chance to post anything new for her to see. Friend's mom said she went to school with Tony Hawk, and was not only friends with him then, has kept in contact since then. I called bullshit until she showed me a yearbook from their high school with his signature by his pic. Years later she sends me a video of them running into each other at an airport back east somewhere. Still kinda crazy to think he's potentially a couple phone calls away. I went to the same high school as Josh Hutcherson, and one of my good friends lived in the same neighborhood. He wasn't around too often because he was already in some movies, but he was just a quiet kid who at the time I thought was stuck up, but now I realize it was probably difficult for him to juggle the normal high school life and a budding Hollywood career. Future Man is one of my favorite shows, and I wish I could tell him that, lol. My dad knew Obama. His best friend was college roommates with him, and he even stayed with my grandparents in Pakistan. He is apparently an extremely humble and genuine person. My dad had great things to say about him. When in Pakistan, I heard he treated the servants poor folks with a ton of respect as well. Adam Devine went to high school in my area, was an obnoxious asshat at the 2 parties I ever saw him at. But most teenage boys in Nebraska are obnoxious asshats, so I don't hold that one against him. Still a fan of his work. Knew Kobe Smulders before How I Met Your Mother. She was awesome then, and is awesome now, just a gem of a person. Did you meet her at the mall? My wife went to school in Wyomissing with Taylor Swift. Was in a staged production of The Sound of Music with her too. The marketing backstory that she was bullied and grew up on a Christmas tree farm is bullshit. She was a rich snob who lived in a big-ass house and went to a school made up of rich snobs. Wyomissing is a bubble of an area populated by the 1% of Berks County. Her dad owned a Christmas tree farm as part of his business portfolio, which, contrary to what she would have you believe, had its own employees and a hired manager, and everything. She would visit it while he talked shop with his employees and was given busy work to stay out of her dad's hair. It's still her talent and business acumen that got her where she is. But the wealth background helped enormously to give her family the freedom to pursue what was essentially her hobby. If you weren't helping her dad's vision of her daughter's future, you didn't exist to their family. I was friends with Jennifer Aniston before Friends. She was a very sweet, cool girl. We were hanging out in her apartment when she got the call that she was up for a character on 21 Jump Street. That never came to fruition. We used to play volleyball in a racquetball court, and I've been to many dinners and parties with her and her close circle of friends. It was pretty cool seeing her years later skyrocket to stardom on Friends. I still have my personal phone book with her old number. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.